Good morning. It is Friday. I am live streaming some world building this morning for an ongoing D&D campaign that I am running. And I am very happy that you have decided to join me, if you've decided to join me. So yeah, we started yesterday working on some backstory information. Good morning, Stephanie, how are you? For fleshing out the Djinn entry, the genie entry in the monster manual for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, and trying to start building out the culture so that we have a city and all of that together. So yeah, that's my plan. Hello, my Laura. How are you? Making Chris an iced cappuccino. That sounds delicious. I have my second cup of coffee. It's freezing there. Oh no. That's no good. Can you get a hot tea or something? +8. Oof. Yes, go get the coffee. Get the coffee and the heat. Do it. Second cup. I've been up since 4:30. I woke up super early this morning and could not get back to sleep. So yes, this has been my lot in life today. So I had my first cup between 5:30 and 6:30, and I'm having my second cup now. I did hear Chris get up this morning. Yep, I did. But for whatever reason, I just couldn't get back to sleep. I thought about texting you because I saw that you were online, and then I was like, that might be rude. It's super early. Okay, grab your coffee, Laura. Yeah, I know I could have. Four a.m. coffee. We could have. It would have been a thing. I wrote letters instead, which is a fine way to use the private hours of the morning. Yeah, more of them with pretty tape on them. Good morning to the lurkers. Feel free to say hi in chat if you feel like it. All right, so we're talking about the Djinn monarchy. So we know from yesterday's stuff that each term for the monarch lasts 12 years, and that each 4 by 12 years is a cycle. Yeah, I can make you a pretty envelope. It's fun to get good mail. I agree. The monarchy goes to the self-selected mail within each quadrant, so the quadrant votes. Internally. And that's how they come up with their candidate, and then that candidate takes over that position for that 12 years. The wife or partner is considered a consort, but not a monarch for ruling purposes. Yeah, we could do Octo Christmas cards, for sure. Feel like I should maybe start a private Facebook group so we can exchange addresses and stuff without it being problematic. You are back and has coffee. Excellent. Hazelnut cream coffee. That sounds awesome. Yeah, we could do Christmas cards. I believe that snail mail needs to be kept alive as well. You are absolutely right, Laura. I don't know where our boys are. I'm surprised we don't have a Patrick at least. Smoky and foggy there. The sun was red on my drive. Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's honestly a little bit smoky up here too. Yeah, I'm surprised we don't have more smoke too. It's really bad in like Vancouver. I've got friends there that are saying it's pretty terrible. All right, so there are patriarchal structures in play in the city. Men are the heads of households, guilds, the army, etc. Women are heads of domestic order, temple life, agriculture, and legal administrators, which is related to the temple life. So we should probably talk about the temples to get a sense of this. Religious and legal structures enforce worship and law. Theocracy. Kind of a proto-theocracy? It's a good song, Steph. 9 to 5 by Dolly is good too. Paintbrush sweating your coffee. That's a thing that happens a lot in my world. Lost me. Oh, that's no good. Laura was just saying that sometimes you drink paint water because it's in a coffee mug. He didn't miss much. Was your end okay? Dennis, good morning, dear. How are you? Oh, you know, I'm doing okay. I'm glad you're hanging in there. I've been awake since 4:30 this morning, so that's fun. but that's an unusual situation for me, so I'm not complaining too loudly. I don't know. I just woke up and could not get back to sleep, which is atypical for me, but roll with it when you gotta roll with it. Got up, had some coffee, went for a walk with a friend, come back, having some more coffee, doing some world building. Think it'll be fun. Yeah, should be all right, right? How have you been lately? What have you been working on? Anything fun? We need a place. Oh my god, class until 9:30 and then working again this morning? Oof. Getting your Patreon reset. What happened to your Patreon? And what class are you taking? Good morning, Patrick. How are you? Nice to see you. Stephanie was wondering where all our boys were. You're tired. I'm sorry. Oh, you were away from it, so you deactivated it. That makes sense. An MBA for admin. Oof, that's a lot to take on in addition to working full time. And doing a Patreon, my goodness. Good for you, though. That's super exciting. I'm glad it's been good at least. That's exciting. We need a location where ritual texts proclaiming the old religion for the Djinn can be hidden until they are rediscovered. We're working more on the Djinn cosmology and stuff that we started yesterday, Pat. I'm currently talking about the temple structure, and kind of delving into like just the whys and wheres of that. Dennis, we're just kind of developing this general location. We don't really have much of a feel for it at all. I will go through the little bit of notes that we came up with yesterday, and then that'll give you guys an idea of where we're at. So what this is trying to flesh out some culture and background for the air genies, like the Djinn, that are in the monster manual for 5th edition. So I'm going to be using their stat blocks and all of that jazz. But I'm trying to develop a main city for them on the elemental plane of air. So in some ways, I'm kind of very vaguely basing it off of the city of Daevabad from City of Brass by Chakraborty, I think is her last name, but very, very vaguely. So we decided that the elemental plane of air is undergoing a civil war. Some Djinn want more access to the material plane to access humans and the human lifestyle. Others want to take the fight that is currently going on in the background between all of the planes to the other planes. And a majority want to keep their plane secure and out of all conflict. These Djinn are conservative and would prefer no interactions with humans. This is a stratified society based on heritage. More Djinn heritage means you have more access to magic and stronger magics. More human intermingling means you have more innovation and curiosity, but less magic. These unions tend to produce human sorcerers, particularly wild magic users. The city is shaped like a circle. The square in the middle is the palace. The higher heritage Djinn live closer to the palace, the more human families live on the outskirts. There is a king and a prince as rulers. The prince is a natural heir, which is a son. His powers are different from his father, which is unexpected. There is a council of 4, one of each quadrant, that advises the crown, and the monarchy changes houses between these families every 12 years. There were 12 miracles that led the Djinn to this location to found their city, and there are 12 commandments. However, those commandments have been lost and are in the process of being refound. We decided that with the 12 commandments, they know that there were commandments, but they've been lost over time, probably because they're in a sacred language that can no longer be read because the speakers were lost in a war or died out. I'm thinking specifically in that case to represent a little bit of what goes on with the Torah in Judaism when the sacred words are written without vowels. So like Yahweh is represented by only consonants, and we're guessing that we put those A's in there, but we don't actually know. The quadrants argue and propose new interpretations of commandments and want their interpretations to be canon. And the translation for them to become canon is more likely if the quadrant has elected the king at the time. The commandments are theoretically rooted in theology, but frequently interpreted as life living rules. Every cycle of 4 houses, so every 48 years, one commandment gets proposed and debated. This process takes 2 years. If agreed upon, it gets added to the roster. The Djinn are wise and seek out traditional knowledge from other races and cultures to help them reverse engineer their missing commandments. This makes them wise in the ways of ancient Middle Realm religions, which means they come across as sages to mortals who seek them out for guidance and wishes, etc. And Patrick suggested that they are planar beings and can only be truly killed on the elemental plane of air. So we started kind of working on the commandments yesterday a little bit. So we have 3, technically 4 of them. The first one is protect the gateways to the elemental plane of air at all costs. The second is protect the monarch. His life unifies the city and its people. And the third is be diligent, finding servants to expand and uphold the empire. There's some kind of indentured servitude going on, time spent in service in exchange for wishes or boons. Propaganda and brainwashing as to Djinn benefits and superiority entices humans into service. Djinn are kind of like Fae. People are fascinated and a bit afraid. This is kind of me trying to take a spin on the fact that the Monster Manual says that slavery is a really big part of Djinn culture. And even though they say that they honor their slaves and they like treat them with respect and stuff like that, I'm just fundamentally uncomfortable with having slavery as a dynamic in my game. I think that that's anachronistic, sure, but it makes me socially way more comfortable to be dealing with thoughts of like indentured servitude or like honor-based servitude, kind of like the guy Shine from the Wheel of Time. Just because, I don't know, man, slavery is messy and it's ugly and it brings up all kinds of stuff that I don't want to have to deal with. And I'm not trying to like avoid it to avoid the ugliness of it. I'm trying to avoid it to avoid traumatizing people with it. I hope that makes sense. Patrick asked me yesterday if the Djinn would resent being compared to the Fae, and they would not want to be compared to the Fae. They consider themselves superior because of their connection to elemental magic and their ability to grant wishes, and they might be possibly angry at the suggestion that they are like the Fae. The Djinn point to their enlightened treatment of servants compared to the Fae's treatment of slaves and guests. So this is kind of where we started this morning, talking a little bit about the monarchy and then about the temples. So for the monarchy, each term lasts 12 years, and each set of 4 cycles is a cycle. 4 sets of 12 years is a cycle. The monarchy goes to the self-selected male within each quadrant. So the quadrant votes internally for their candidate, and then the candidate, if it's their cycle, gets elected. The wife or partner of the candidate is considered a consort, but not a monarch for ruling purposes. And the entire system here is patriarchal. So men exist as the head of households, the head of guilds, the head of the army. Women exist as the heads of domestic order, temple life, agriculture, and legal administrators, which are related to temple life. And so then I kind of transitioned into talking about the temples a bit. They're religious and legal structures, and they enforce worship and law. This is kind of, in my picturing of the society, like a proto-theocracy. They were secular, but have been moving towards a more religious rule in the last few centuries. The transition to theocracy has been prompted by a series of simultaneous visions experienced by elder male Djinn of all four quadrants, showing an exegesis into previously lost ritual texts uncovered in a blank. We got to figure that out somewhere. An adventuring party was assembled from the quadrants to recover the texts, and the person who recovered them became the first king of the new order. So that's everything that I have right now. So hopefully that wasn't too big of a download to kind of give you guys, but that's where we're at. The knowledge sought by the Djinn were protected by a higher race. The original commandments were placed on magical scrolls of paper thin stone. Okay, the scrolls were actually used as the 12 pillars for Grand Temple. Only one of the pillars remains in the ruins. Pat, that's genius. Okay. So it was a temple. Fill in that blank. The knowledge sought by the Djinn was protected by a higher race, quote unquote. Original commandments were placed on magical scrolls of paper, thin stone. The scrolls were used as 12 pillars for the Grand Temple. We need a name. Only the 12th pillar about electing cycling kings is intact in the ruins. I like that a lot, Pat. Thank you. That's really great. So let's figure out what the name of this temple is, and let's figure out where it's located. Because I think it should be somewhere that's too dangerous for the city to actually be founded nearby. The city needed to be made somewhere safer. So let's think about a temple name, and let's think about what makes the temple itself so dangerous that people can't be there. Temple area is too dangerous for inhabitants and rebuilding. So city founded elsewhere. Okay, let's have... That's a good question, Laura. Dangerous to elementals or to all things? Could be like a Ridge A in Antarctica. I don't know Ridge A. There's almost no wind. Oh. Maybe that's bad for them. Okay, yeah, that sounds interesting. Okay, so temple area has no wind due to something. This is bad for Djinn because why? Because they need constant movement of air to be healthy. This is why trapping them in magic lamps, etc., is so successful. It limits their contact with wind and planar magic. Like radiation poisoning. Okay. Yeah, I like that, Dennis. That's really smart. Perhaps with time, the geological forces have elevated the forgotten city, which contained the temple, into an altitude uninhabitable by all races. Okay, cool. Temple elevated to altitude uninhabitable by nearly all mortal races. Let's say except bird people, because that makes sense. And Djinn and question mark. Raised on a mountain. Maybe the mountain was caused by the forces of Earth trying to damage the temple in the war. Mountain raised by Earth elementals as act of aggression in interplanar war, trying to destroy the temple to reduce air's influence on the plane. Okay. The earthquakes which arise from the geographical events also aided the crumbling city. Yes. So earthquakes and continue to make it uninhabitable. Aided the crumbling of the city and keep it uninhabitable. Okay. I like that. That's really strong. So that's the temple. So what's special about the place that the city got founded? There was 12 miracles that led them to this city. I kind of am picturing this like in the middle of a desert. So I'm going to assume there's water. What makes the city special? Access to water, planar portals in city, direct line to air magic. Could be how the water was discovered. Okay, so the miracles are related to the water. How big is the plane they live in? Sounds good, Pat. High desert plateau. Well, this plane is the elemental plane of air, so presumably it's pretty huge. Because it could have the opposite effect as Rajavel, where all elements converge. If that's right on the borders, yeah, that's true. Maybe it's on the border of the material plane. Because like in the way that I've got my world set up, the material plane is the only place where all of the elemental planes overlap. And so that's where all of the conflict between the different elementals is playing out, because it's literally the only yard everybody can get into. So you can't go from like the fire plane to the airplane through a direct doorway. You'd have to like teleport or planar shift or whatever, or find the doorway on the material plane to do that kind of thing. So there is like bleed over from the material plane into each of those individual planes, but there's not like the cross contamination of each of those planes into every other plane. That makes sense? Okay, cool. I wasn't sure if it would or not. Nice to know I'm explaining myself well enough for comprehension despite being up so early. That's a bonus. So yeah. So what makes the city special? So they have access to water. The 12 miracles are related in part to water finding, and the planar portals in the city give a direct line to air magic. There is some kind of air elemental Leviathan located through the portals. Too big to come through. So the temple city might be the material plane location. Yeah, I like that. Okay. High desert plateau on material plane. Yeah, the city could exist in both. So the temple, let's say the temple exists on the material plane, but the city exists on the plane of air. The city where the palace is. Plane of air. So you walk into an old temple in the material plane, and depending on how you walk, may see a huge city. Oh, I like that. Okay, so you can walk into the temple on the material plane if you can get there and it's dangerous. And depending on how you walk out, you arrive in the royal city. Okay. You have to spend the night or leave at a time to access each, and the clergy of Varanasi control the temple, so they control who can come and go. It is said that once the rift is controlled by the Djinn for political reasons, opened wide enough, the air Leviathan will enter the material plane and destroy all in sight. I think the giant red spot on Jupiter. Sure, I like that. Okay, how do I quote all of that? So, okay, backing the train up a second. Does this mean that there are still Jinn who are trying to reclaim this temple and like restore it? It seems natural to me that that would be true, even though it's dangerous. They'll have like adventuring parties of their own trying to like get this up and running again. Okay. There are Jinn adventuring parties trying to clear the temple and land of negative, dangerous things, so they can restore the temple and use it to keep opening larger portals in hopes of letting the Leviathan into the material plane to wreak havoc. Sure, that's spelled wrong. Havoc on their enemies. I think the prophecy is the reason why some of them want to keep the rift closed, because they've gotten close to humans and they don't want to see humans destroyed. In contrast, those of the airplane believe the Jinn just want power that comes from that control. Okay, some Jinn who love humans don't want this because the Leviathan will destroy what they love. Some Jinn want it because the war between the elements is more important to them. Some Jinn just don't care. Want to focus on other things. One of the things that the monster manual makes really plain is that Jinn have very human desires, human society. So the Jinn's love of the material plane is mostly because they are treated by the material denizens as gods. That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's very true, Patrick. You're not wrong. All right. Oh, lost you, Pat? You're back? Okay. Sorry, boss. I don't know what happened. Same? Okay. Sorry, friends. Super frustrating because it never shows for me that there's a problem with the stream. I'm sorry. Okay. So, need. Name of temple. Two. There was two of something. 2 more minutes. "12 miracles." Names of king and prince. Heads of 4 quadrants. Heads of temple. And NPC adventuring party to meet. Oh, that's super exciting, Pat. Congratulations. I hope the car is awesome. Is that what was all coming together on Facebook yesterday? Name of temple. Awesome. I was wondering about that. I'm glad. Well, let's have a look at the name book, see if we can come up with names for our king. Let's see what we got here. Table of contents somewhere. Do we have something like Persian? We have Arabic. Just Arabic? There's no, wow. That seems really like an oversight. Yay, everything coming up, Pat. That's super exciting. I'm glad. Malik is Arabic for king. Okay, we'll go with that as the title, Malik. Hmm, 111. Let's see if we find a name we like. Sabir. Malik Sabir. And then the prince will be Talal. Family names. Yeah, we'll just skip it. You're not wrong, Pat. All right, so we got the names of the king and prince. We need 4 more names for the head of the quadrants. And we need some kind of way to like delineate the quadrants. So let's do Abbas, Jabbar, Nasir, and Sarwat. Okay, so we had an idea about these being associated with different types of magic. Where's that page? Heat, lightning, weather, and wind. Weather is kind of that middle ground between lightning and wind. Yeah, I agree with you, Pat. I think that's a good way to do it. More imposing if they only have one. Yeah, I agree with you, Laura. All right, so let's do Abbas as heat, Jabbar as lightning, Nasir as weather, Sawat as wind, only middle ground if you know lightning is part of weather and not something controlled by the gods. I like lightning as being a separate thing because my character, like my player character, Daria, uses a lot of lightning magic, and she has a great grandfather who's a Djinn. And that's how she's like going to be arriving through the city. So I like the idea of one of them having lightning as a direct thing, because then that kind of like can trail through her family tree and explain her affinity for that particular kind of magic. So I think that's kind of why I'm leaning towards it. I just hope I don't feel like I'm doing duplicatory thing. So the current king Sabir, Malik Sabir, what house is he from? Heat, lightning, weather, or wind. Weather? Okay. And let's roll a d12 to see how far into the 12-year cycle his rulership is. 8 years. He's in year 8 of 12. Rulership. Okay, I like that. So we said that his son Talal's powers are not the same as his. So what is Talal's powers? Yeah, that sounds good, Patrick. The son doesn't have the same powers as the king. So what kind of powers does he have? The king's is weather. He's got lightning? Okay. Okay. Oh my goodness. That takes us to an hour, my friends. I need to get going because I've got a commission I've got to work on today. So sorry I can't hang out for longer. I hope that you have an awesome day and that this was fun. Yeah, right? Fastest hour we've spent in a while. Went super fast. We were super productive today too. Like, go us. Good job, team. We did awesome. Thank you. I'm drawing cats, so I'm hoping it goes well too. I'll post an update photo to the work webpage as things progress. I'm glad it was good, Steph. Oh my goodness, pardon the yawn. I might also need to have a nap. This is going to be a thing. All right. See you later. Better the draw than herd cats. True story. All right. Bye, friends. We'll catch you later.